What's up YouTube? My name is Zach with Android Digest, and I'm sick. I've been coughing left and right. Black Friday came around, I was really excited, stayed up till 7 a.m. making some videos, and with Black Friday apparently came the Black Plague, and I've been sick, coughing for days. But after eating about 200 Luden's cough drops, which by the way taste delicious, I am finally back on track. Sort of. And with Black Friday and with the Black Plague, I also managed to snag my hands on the Google Pixel 4. So I will be reviewing that soon, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So keep your eyes out for that one. But while I'm familiarizing myself with the Pixel 4 and I'm using it for the next few weeks, I thought I would release a review on this phone. I've had it for about a month, and that is the Motorola One Action. So the Motorola One Action released in the US in October. So it's been just a little over a month since it came out. It released at a retail price of $349. Comes with 128 gigabytes of storage, which is very good for this price. It's got a micro SD card slot. It also has water splash resistance, I should say, NFC, and fast charging. So I really want to let you know if this phone is a good deal for the price, what price you should buy it at, and who this phone is really good for. So with that being said, let's get this review started. Alright, so we've got the Motorola One Action here. Now I want to just take a quick look first at the device. So you see here at the bottom of the device, you have the charging port. You also have your speaker right here, which is a little quiet. I'll get into that a little later. Now on the right side of the device, you do see a power button up and down on the volume. You see a headphone jack on the top of the phone, and you do see a SD card / SIM card slot on the left side of the phone. Now on the back of the phone, you'll see they made an awesome design choice. They went with a normal fingerprint scanner, so they didn't go with that in-screen nonsense. And you might love that idea of that new tech, but I've had 4, 5, 6 phones I've had that just have not worked well with that in-screen fingerprint sensor. If it is going to be used in future technology, they really need to work on it. So I was happy to see a nice normal fingerprint sensor here on the back, and it has worked great thus far. Now let's take a look at the display for a moment. Now it is a 6.3 inch screen. It's a 2520 by 1080 resolution. It's an IPS LCD screen, and I've got to tell you, I love the design choice they made on this screen. Now it's hard to describe, but the Moto Z3 and Z4 and all those Moto Z phones have had sort of a blocky screen because you have to fit the Moto mod on the back of the phone. So I was really excited that they went with a fresh design on this phone because the screen has a 21:9 aspect ratio. And if you have no idea what that means, let me just say the screen is tall. It's a tall screen. It's not very wide. So you're going to see a 6.3 inch screen, but it's not because it's a big phone. It's actually just tall. The way most of us spend time on our phones is in portrait mode. We spend time scrolling through our phones, right? We don't normally have our phones in landscape mode. We hold our phones like this and scroll through. And it was just refreshing to see change because as a tech reviewer, I see all these phones and they really all look the same. So in day-to-day usage, I really enjoyed having a screen that was tall like this. Now we also have to talk about how good the display is. And with that 2520 by 1080 resolution, it's a really good IPS screen. Now granted, it's not a $1,000 screen, okay? So don't compare it to your Galaxy Note 10. But it really served me very well. So when you're watching a lot of videos, you're watching a lot of YouTube, maybe you're reading a lot and you're doing those things, the screen looks really nice. It looks really crisp. It looks really clear. This phone also has great brightness on it. So the phone was very bright and I definitely enjoyed that. So this phone really has a good display, and it's a really good display for the money. And I'm a really big fan of the design choice. But having that aspect ratio, that 21:9 aspect ratio, having that tall phone isn't all good. You see, if you go to ESPN or you go to Hulu, let's say, and you're watching a video, you're gonna see these black bars on the side of the screen, and that's because the app itself is not built to work with that aspect ratio. So with how tall phones get, phones typically also get a little wider for a certain type of picture. And it's not Motorola's fault, but not all app developers like Hulu or maybe an ESPN, they don't all support that aspect ratio. So even though you have a taller screen, you're not always going to be able to use it. And that sort of is a bummer. So that might bother you personally, but for me personally, I was just happy to see a fresh design and to use something different. Next, I want to talk about performance. Now, this has a Samsung Exynos processor. It's an Exynos 9609, and it's got 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now, if you're like me, there's so many processors out there, you can't keep track of them, okay? But let me just tell you, this device performs well for the price. So it compared really well from my testing to phones like the Google Pixel 3a, which retails $50 more than this. It retails at $400. You also have the Galaxy A50, which retails at the same price at $350. And this phone competed very well with those phones. And I did find this phone was faster than phones like the Moto G7, which retails at $300. So I use my phone like a lot of you probably. I go on YouTube, I go to various apps and read things I'm interested in. You know, I go on CNET or I might go on Google News. Now this phone won't have the best graphical settings for every game, but it will play games like Fortnite and PUBG. It just won't play them on the highest settings, and it probably won't be on the lowest settings either. You might find yourself in those mid-range settings to get good performance, but in my testing, this phone, it at least could game. It's just not the best gaming phone on the market. Now, as far as battery life, I was able to get good screen time on this battery. Your average battery comes with about a 3,000 milliamp battery. This comes with a 3,600 milliamp battery. So it's got a good amount of battery in it compared to most phones in this price range. In fact, if you compare it to the Google Pixel 3a, it's got almost 500 milliamps of battery more, and you might not really care about milliamps or milliwho's or what's, but let me just say, it's got good battery. Your average user can get through a day on a normal battery. This has a little bit more, so that means if you're having a really busy, hectic day, this phone should get you through to the end of the day. And if you're like me and you don't use your phone all the time, it's not ringing 24/7, this phone should probably get you through until you're at about 20% or 30% at the end of the day. So I did enjoy the battery on this phone. Now it's not quite as good as the Galaxy A50, and it's not quite as good as, you know, the Motorola G7 Power. But at this price range, and honestly at any price range, you know, I've seen so many flagship phones like the Google Pixel 4 I just bought, the LG G7. All these phones seem to release with 3,000 milliamp batteries, so this phone has a better battery than most phones. So I was really happy with the battery performance. It was a little better than really what I expected, and it did get me through almost every single day without having to charge up again. Now this phone is called the Motorola One Action as well because of the camera. It's got a 16 megapixel camera to shoot video in, and the cool thing is you could have your phone in portrait mode and you can actually shoot videos in that 16:9 wide aspect ratio. And that's really cool, right? Because we want to get as much action in a lot of our video shots as we can. So it's really cool to see a camera that has good video stabilization and it can get a lot of cool things in your shot without you having to do this all the time. Let's face it, right? We're lazy people. Sometimes we just want to hold our phones like this. And I thought it was really cool that it had that nice camera in there, and I'd say it gets pretty good video shots. Just keep in mind though that it doesn't record in 4K with that action camera. However, the 12 megapixel camera, which sort of works like a normal smartphone camera, that camera will record in 4K. Now as far as regular camera shots, you can get that as well in that 12 megapixel camera, and they look really good. I say this phone competes well with its competitors. Obviously, the Google Pixel 3a, I've said it almost in every mid-range phone review I do, that phone is the king of the camera for this price range. But I'd say this phone has better shots than phones like the Moto G7. I think it's got a really good camera in it for $350, and I wasn't too unimpressed by it. Now, you're going to need decent lighting at this price. You're not going to get fantastic shots in low lighting, but from what I have here, I'd say it has a pretty good camera. As far as other features on the phone, this phone also has fast charging. it sort of has a splash resistance, so it's not that IP68 rating, okay? It just has a splash resistance rating, which means like it could get wet. If it's, maybe you hold it in the rain for a couple seconds, it might be fine. But if you put it in a fish bowl, okay, you might get some water damage. So I am happy to see though that it does have NFC. It also has fast charging, which is a must, honestly, at $350. And it has 128 gigabytes of storage. When phones like the Google Pixel 4 released for $800 with only 64 gigs of storage, I'm really happy that Motorola stepped up to give us 128 gigs of storage. So you don't even need an SD card really. It's got plenty of storage for most people. Now one thing I do need to mention is the speaker. The speaker is not super loud on this phone, so it is a little quiet. So I just want to show a quick video here of the speaker, just so you could see how loud it is.
You're looking good. Jonathan just got an awesome face paint job. What do you think?
I like turtles.
All right, you're great, zombie. And good times here at the Waterfront Village, open for the next 11 days.
So as you could hear, it's not super loud. Now it's gonna be loud enough for your ringtones and to hear, you know, in the morning and stuff like that. But I wouldn't expect it to be something you're gonna blast music on through the day. Sure, you could put music on at your desk and stuff like that. Just keep in mind it's not a rockin' speaker. It doesn't have dual speakers on both sides. It just has that one speaker on the bottom, which sort of performs like a budget phone. So that's really the one feature that I really thought was lacking on this device. And one thing I forgot to mention about this phone is it feels like it's just straight Google, baby. There's not a bunch of bloatware on this phone, so even though it has 128 gigs of storage, it's not being filled with 20 random apps. The only apps I really saw were just your basic apps, your Google apps, your settings, and it was a very basic setup. So this phone compares very well to the Google Pixel in the sense that you're going to get a very basic setup. You're not going to have a bunch of bloatware and a bunch of Samsung apps on your phone and a bunch of things you're going to have to disable. So to summarize, the Motorola One Action is a great phone for the price. It's got a great processor. It's got good performance for the price. It's got good RAM. It also has a good camera. Maybe not as good as the Pixel 3a, but it's still pretty good. And it's got some extra features like that live action camera that you can take a wider shot when you're using it in portrait mode. It also has a normal fingerprint scanner, which I really like. In fact, I love the fingerprint sensor more than I did those annoying in-screen ones. It's got good battery life, and personally, I don't care that the design isn't being used by all the apps. I'm just happy to see a fresh, new design out there. So I really liked that tall design, and at least for me, in my weirdo hands, I actually like this phone, and I think it is used really well. So if you're in decision mode and you're trying to decide between the Pixel 3a and the Galaxy A50 and other phones in this price range, maybe even the Moto G7 or the G8 coming out, I'd say it really depends. This phone hit all the high marks for me for a mid-range phone, and I really liked this phone a lot. The only real con I had was that the camera wasn't quite as good as the Google Pixel 3a, which I normally don't expect in a $350 phone. And the speaker was a little quieter than I would like. So if you buy it, really just depends on preference. If you like those in-screen fingerprint readers, even though they don't always work, maybe the Galaxy A50 is your cup of tea. And hey, it's got a wider screen as well, and that might be your thing. Or maybe you want a bigger phone than the Google Pixel 3a, and you want a good balance because this phone has good software, it also has a good display, it's got a fresh design, and I'd say it's a good balance when you're balancing all these things out. And in that case, the Motorola One Action would be a good phone. And of course, price is a big differentiator. If you see the Motorola One Action on sale and you see it for $300 in the US, maybe you see it for $250, that is a really good deal. So don't be afraid to check out the Motorola One Action. I've got the links in the description, and check it out, see what the price is, and see if it's worth buying, because I've seen it for $300, and Best Buy sometimes has some great deals. I've seen it on Amazon with some great deals. Just keep in mind that the Amazon version that is the Alexa version, which I will also list in the description, sometimes there's some better deals on that model, but that device has a few extra pre-installed apps. Probably not a big deal to most of you to have like 2 or 3 more apps on your phone, but I thought I'd mention it as well. So again, I just want to say thanks for supporting us. We are just a few subscribers away. Maybe we're 2 or 3 subscribers away right now from 1,000. By the time you're watching this, we are going to be over 1,000 subscribers. So thank you all so much for your support. I really appreciate you helping us grow this channel from the ground up because it means a lot to me as a human being. That's what YouTube is about, right? It's about supporting other human beings, supporting them to help them make a living, and you can help me do that as well. So thank you so much for watching and supporting. Don't just like, subscribe to my page. Also, click that bell and click all so you get all the notifications from my videos. Also, feel free to go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/theandroiddigest, where I post all my videos. That's really a great place to become a part of the gang. And also, I share some special deals on there. Black Friday happened, Christmas is coming up, and I'm going to share some special deals on there just for you. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. And again, enjoy the holidays.